Welcome back in, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Ben Parker here with Sports and Money, Pro Football GM. We cover a lot of things, most of it from the NFL general manager's perspective, and we really enjoy that. Simon Short is back with us today. Again, we've done a lot of work this afternoon, mostly focused on head coaches and the guys who were gone, the guys who might be coming in, along with some of the coordinators and general managers that we might be looking at. Today, we're going to focus on two things. And Simon, welcome back in. We're going to be looking at the wild card teams and who might still be at risk, at least, of losing their jobs. We'll attach some kind of a percentage to it, maybe even a percentage range if we feel like it. And then we're also going to look at who might be getting left out this year on the coaching carousel. And that is when all the chairs have been filled, who's not going to have a head coaching chair? They'll have a job somewhere. We know that. But who's not going to have a head coaching job or who's unlikely to? So we'll probably attach some percentages to that as well. Simon, I already said it, but welcome back in, man. How you doing?
Thank you very much, Ben. It's a great honor to be on four Sports and Money episodes in one day. I get my fix in. Very happy to be here. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, and we understand because a lot of this moves quickly. So by the time some of you see some of these videos, we've done four. One or two of these spots might already be filled, but the majority of these will not be, and will still be very much worth the conversation and worth to listen to as well. So we certainly feel like these will be good for at least a couple of weeks as we go through here. Let's start off with some wild card matchups. I'm going to list off what I think are the obvious ones. If you disagree, say I disagree, and we'll come back to it. But I'll go ahead and hit the ones I think are obvious that are safe. The Browns with DeMeco Ryans and the Browns with Kevin Stefanski and the Texans with DeMeco Ryans. To me, both safe, no risk here.
Agreed.
All right, and that's whether they win or lose. The Dolphins and the Chiefs. Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins, Andy Reid for the Chiefs. To me, no matter who loses this game, I think both guys are safe there as well.
Agreed. Yep. Totally.
That leaves me with, I think if I'm looking at this right, one other matchup where I think both guys are safe, and that's going to be the Lions
hmm
and the Rams. I think no matter who wins or loses. Now, the Lions, I think, have to win this game in order for everybody nationally to still feel good about them. But there's no chance that either coach is losing their job coming off of this game.
Yeah, no, you just won the NFC North for the first time in what, 30 years or so. Yeah, these guys are totally safe for sure.
If anything, and I say this jokingly because I don't actually agree with it, but if anything, these two organizations might should offer lifetime contracts to these coaches more so than being looking at firing either guy after losing this game. Right.
I will say I think both teams change starting quarterbacks before they change head coaches.
That's an interesting facet and one that, yeah, I definitely think is very much, I would agree with that. So we think those three matchups are safe. Now that leaves us, let me ask you first then before I call out the other three matchups. Do you think any of the other three matchups features two teams and two head coaches where there is zero risk of a guy getting fired if they lose the game?
No, no. I think each of these remaining three matchups has one guy who, under the right circumstance, could be on the way out.
I agree. So let me start off with the AFC side, and that's going to be the Steelers and the Bills. My personal opinion is that even if the Steelers lose, Tomlin is safe.
Yep.
I've got an asterisk to that I'll bring up in a second, but my personal
Stop it.
feeling is I know, you know me. It's because I like Tomlin so much.
I
It's
know.
not
No, it's
because,
not that it's you're trying to take him away from us, and I don't appreciate
yes,
it.
absolutely. Anyway,
This isn't bar rescue. He can't go around and save all the franchises, Ben. He's gonna stay right where he's at.
he can try. All right, so that leaves us with the Bills. I'm going to ask you, is there risk on Sean McDermott and what you think that risk is?
Yeah, I'll give him like it's not high. I'll say like 10 to 15% chance that if they lose, he's out. They haven't had any embarrassing playoff exits, but this would be one. But you could blame the weather kind of if you really needed to. It's a weird year. He makes the right move in season and fires Ken Dorsey. He fired Leslie Frazier at the beginning of the year and kept what was a top 10 defense despite all the injuries. But losing the 2-7 matchup in what was a tumultuous year, I'll give him like a 10 to 15% chance that he would lose his job if he were to lose this game.
I'm in the same boat there. I do think there's a risk here. I don't think it's large. I'll probably go a little slightly higher than that, maybe 20, 25%. It's not huge. I will say the kicker for me is if you lose to Mason Rudolph at home,
Oh yeah, 100%. Never mind. You're right.
that's not a good look. I mean,
No.
that's a problem, right? So
Yeah.
they can't do that. Even doing it though, I'm not sure that they wouldn't say, "Hey, you've got one more year." Is kind of my feeling on it. So I would put the percentage a little higher, but I'm with you with what you said. It feels like he made the right moves to at least save his butt. Maybe it wasn't the
Hmm.
right move to win a Super Bowl,
Right.
but he made the right moves to save his job, especially when you look at their winning streak to end the season.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, my asterisk on Mike Tomlin is this: is there any chance that he just gets tired of it all? Is it not exhausting to constantly be winning? And again, I'm not necessarily saying that Tomlin has done everything right because he hasn't. It's been a while since he did anything significant. That bothers me. But does it not, if you're Tomlin, does it not get exhausting to win most years and still be questioned and criticized? And do you feel like, hey, maybe greener pasture somewhere else?
I don't think so. Tomlin loves every step of the coaching process. He is the most active coach during um, college pro days and visits with college. So he loves the draft process. He loves the rookie mini camp. He loves, I mean, so many rookies have gone through rookie mini camp saying like, I was on the team for 2 weeks and Mike Tomlin like made a huge impact on me in like a one-on-one base. Like he just loves every step of this. And I said this last year when there were rumors about would Sean McVay want to leave if the Rams weren't going to be winners. The best coaches love everything about coaching, and that's taking the good and the bad. That's the down years, that's the up years. He loves every step of it. So the prospect of running to a place where he might win more games sooner isn't something that's going to really be on the table for him, I would expect.
That's why it'd be perfect for the Raiders, man.
Stop it. Just stop. No. It's
If
like
I'm,
Beetlejuice. You've said it too many times today. I needed to be over.
I can't help it. If I'm the Raiders, I'm back channeling. He gets a 20-year deal worth $15 million a year. You
You've
know?
been back channeling for 2 weeks, Ben. The back channels are done. They're blocked up. You went to the channels and
Okay.
there are dams built in the channels. He's not going anywhere
All right, I'll quit for now.
until the next one.
Let's get on to another matchup here, and it's the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Now, I, I'm going to kind of come in with a hot take on this. I think, and I'm not even totally sure which coach, but I think I know
Yeah.
which coach you would put at risk. If it were me, I've got Todd Bowles as safe if he loses this game, and Nick Sirianni is the guy that there might be a risk on. But where do you sit on it?
So rightly or wrongly, I say Bowles is 50-50 after this week. Now, maybe it's even 60-40 safe as opposed to because when he stayed on at the beginning of this year and they bring in Baker Mayfield, it just felt like a classic bridge situation, right? They
Yeah,
again, rightly or wrongly, lame duck coach situation, bridge quarterback until you're bad enough to draft one early, and then they win games and they win the division. They're 9-8, and he kept the aging defense together to be a pretty good defense, relied on turnovers, but pretty good defense. Um, he brought in Dave Canales to be the offensive coordinator, play call. That went well. He made a lot of good decisions. I could still see the Bucks if they, let's say if they lose in embarrassing fashion, right? And it's like, okay, it's just a product of being the best team of the NFC South, which doesn't mean anything. The Eagles were reeling to end the year and you lose 28-10, and then it's like, okay, well, that was all kind of a facade. Let's either fully go in the tank with a new coach at the helm, or let's make a big hire at coach and go trade up, make a big splash for a quarterback. Um, maybe I'd so I'll split I'll say 55-45. Bowles is safe. I'm with you though. I don't think Sirianni's 100% safe the way the season has gone. Now, it came out today, Saturday, that AJ Brown is going to be out for this game. He's officially ruled out. So I think that gives him a little bit of a safety net, maybe one that he wouldn't have had Brown played. But I'll give Sirianni like 2% chance that he doesn't make it out of this if they lose to the Bucks on Wild Card weekend. Because yeah, the vibes are bad, and losing Steichen and Gannon and having a maybe not records wise, but obviously worse season than last year, I think means something.
I agree with you. Now, personally, my hot take is this. I think it's ridiculous that either of these two coaches is at risk of losing their job after this game. I mean, just from a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're Todd Bowles, you have taken not much and turned it into something.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked last year without Tom Brady part of the season. You were, I think that's right. Anyway, if I can't even remember if Brady was there all season, it was other people that were injured, so it was very limited last year what they could do. And I can't remember. Maybe it was Brady who was in all season, and there were other people that were out because I know
And I
the
think there
Central
were,
was out,
I think there
right?
was like some off-season stuff where he wasn't around in that last year. Regardless, yeah, either way, it wasn't a great situation
I
last
think
year.
that's right. So I think Brady was in all year. They lost their center right at the start of the season,
Yep.
and then they started losing other people throughout the year. Right. So in any case, I like what Todd Bowles has done this year with Baker Mayfield to get into the playoffs and even have a chance to win. You got a home game, you've got a chance to win this thing. They actually took the division, as opposed to reeling in here with a losing record. So Bowles should be safe, if for no other reason than just stability. Keep the franchise stable until there's a reason to make a change. And then Nick Sirianni, to me, it's a joke that a guy can be in the Super Bowl one year and be fighting for his job the next year
Yep.
with a winning record.
Yep.
they,
Yeah.
they
11
didn't
wins.
follow.
That's a lot of wins. That's not 9 wins sneaking in. 11 wins is a lot.
It's a joke, but
Yep.
I know humans. I know
Hmm.
people. I know football. I know that. And so I think there is a chance here that Sirianni, with a bad, ugly loss, maybe a 10% chance, is on his way out the door. He shouldn't be. I'll tell you
Right.
what's really driving that 10% is that we're hearing from people, local media in Philadelphia, that there's stuff stirring in the building.
Hmm.
We're not necessarily hearing that. That's not being fueled by national speculation. That's kind of coming from the Philadelphia media that, hey, and they won't name names, but that, hey, there's some stuff shaking up here. And so, that's where that's really driving it for me. I don't think either guy should be fighting for his job, but I think you really want to win this game if you're both guys, not lose it.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts had that press conference recently where they asked him about checking out of a play at the end of I forget if it was the Giants game or the game before that, but he was just like, yeah, no, we decided that there's a lot of stuff that goes on here behind the scenes that you guys don't know about. And like that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, we actually all hate the coaches, right? Or we don't respect. It's not a Jameis Winston. We changed the play, Dennis Allen's play without him knowing the situation. But I mean, it could just mean like, hey, there's stuff that I have the ability to do when I get on the field that I can change the play, and you guys don't know that because you're not in the headset. But there is enough out there that's like, is there somewhere? Again, I'm with you. I wouldn't personally move on from either of these guys. But dealing in actuality, I'll give Sirianni a 2% chance in a bad loss and Bowles in a 55-45 safe kind of situation.
It feels about right. I might be slightly higher on Bowles at like 60-40 to stay, even with a loss. But I don't think it's automatic that everybody in Tampa Bay inside that building is lock, stock, and barrel on Todd Bowles. I just don't get that vibe necessarily that they're completely convinced that he's the guy for the next 5 to 10 years. So that's where we're at on that one. And now that brings an interesting one here: the Packers and the Cowboys. I've got Matt LaFleur safe, even if he loses this game. I don't think there's any chance he's gone. But that brings us to Mike McCarthy. Do you feel the same?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. LaFleur way above expectation. McCarthy certainly on the hot seat.
And it's so weird that we say that because the Cowboys have actually had a pretty good year, all things considered.
Right.
They're in the 2 seed, and yet those expectations, the higher they get, the more likely the fall, right?
Yeah.
So
We said in the offseason, McCarthy making the bold choice to move on from Kellen Moore and be the play caller for this year. It wasn't going to be something we were grading him on in the regular season. We knew the regular season would be fine. It's here in the playoffs, man. If he lays another egg, having taken on more responsibility on his plate, that's where things get dicey for him.
and you asked me a question earlier today, and I said I wasn't sure. I'm sure now. I feel like the Mike McCarthy position might be the one spot where if they even get, let's say they win this game against the Packers, which they should, they're the better team, they're at home. Let's say they win this game and they get the divisional round and they lose. I think there's still a chance McCarthy's the one guy. I feel like there's still a chance he could lose his job even if he loses in the next round, having thought about it. Let's say they, and I haven't even looked at the possible matchups, but let's say they go up against the 49ers or against the Lions or the
The
Rams, and they get
Lions, yeah, I think the Lions are the most likely.
the most likely. Let's say they get their doors blown off by 2 touchdowns. To me, there would still be a definite chance that Jerry Jones says, "Hey, I'm ready to switch to fill in the blank." I'll let you fill in the blank with it because you had some interesting takes there. But I do feel like that's on the table still for the Cowboys even after Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, Adam Schefter had the report, I think last week sometime, that McCarthy would be graded on whatever the last game was that the Cowboys played in.
Okay.
Um, and so that could mean, hey, what level was that last game? Was it a conference championship game? Was it a wild card game? Is it about how they play in that last game? That's all up in the air. But I think it's all the way up to the finish line for Mike McCarthy, whether it's this week or even next week.
Agree. That's a great way to put it. And so I think we'll leave it off there. But those are the guys that are all coaching in the wild card rounds. Most of them are safe anyway. It's amazing that we're talking about people in the playoffs
I
still
know.
job risk.
I should have tracked it, but it just feels like it always happens. And maybe it's not even one of these guys, but I really think there's going to be one more job that comes available. But I think it very well could be one of these guys from this weekend.
All right. Well, interesting conversation. I actually enjoyed that one, and the percentages I think help a lot too. Let me ask you this: Mike McCarthy percentage. He loses this game to the Packers at
100%.
home. 100%.
100%.
Okay.
Toast. He's toast. Loses to his former team, the team he left for, so he could come to Dallas. I think he with Green Bay beat the Cowboys twice in the playoffs, and that was why Jerry Jones was like, "Oh, that's the guy I want eventually." And then you get the matchup finally, and yeah, 100%. If they lose this game, McCarthy's gone.
All right. It's weird conversation, but it's a lot of fun for us. So we're going to switch gears here and talk about some guys that might get left out of head coaching positions. We know that there were 8 jobs available. The Patriots has been filled. That leaves 7 jobs. Pierce kind of has I don't know where you want to put that. Pierce for the Raiders, but he's kind of got an inside step, and yet he's not guaranteed that job. So that's 7 openings. And then let's say if we add one from Wild Card Weekend, that would be back to 8 spots. So
Mhm.
after everybody changes chairs here and the carousel stops, somebody's not going to have a head coaching chair. They'll have good jobs, paying them a lot of money, doing things they like to do, but it won't be a head coaching spot. So we're going to put percentages on. I'm going to bring up names, and I'll let you and I'll do the same. Put percentages on what we think they'll actually have a head coaching job at the end of the year.
All right, great, love it.
All right, I'm going to start off with one that I think is obvious, but let's see. Jim Harbaugh coming from Michigan. I'm going to put this in terms of an NFL head coaching job. What are the percentage chances you think he's got an NFL head coach job before this offseason is over?
I was going to try to cheat and say, yeah, he'll definitely be a head coach next year. Um, I will. I'll say 90%. I'll say not. I part my gut is telling me 100. I'll say 90, just because that Michigan Brinks truck might be too good to pass up, especially if he looks up and Carolina is the only other job, right? Why leave Michigan for Carolina? So I'll say 90% that Harbaugh is a head coach in the NFL next year.
Totally agree. I can't say 100 because there's a chance he might just decide to stay in Michigan. I don't see why he would, though. He wants to go
Yeah.
back and win a Super Bowl. He's already done it at Michigan. You can't get any
Yep.
better at Michigan.
Yep.
So I'll put it at 90% as well for Harbaugh to have a NFL coaching job. Let's go next to Ben Johnson. What's your percentage on him?
100%. 100%. He did the classic, felt the water, tested the waters last year, went back and only raised his stock, I think. There's a number of teams that could use him. He's offensive minded. He did very well. I think he's gonna 100%. Ben Johnson's a head coach in the NFL next year.
I feel like it's pretty important he actually does get one this year because To me, head coaching names get hot and cold real fast, and it's amazing. It's amazing how much they cool off after just one season. We've watched names in the past 5 years of guys who were red hot and they didn't actually land a spot, and it's amazing how quickly they cooled off after a season. So you can imagine if for some reason they have an injury to Jared Goff next year and somebody else got to come and play quarterback, and the offense doesn't look very good, he's not a hot name anymore. So I agree with you. Not only is he going to get one, but he needs to go ahead and take a spot this year. And there's some good spots out there to be had. So,
And if I'm him, I don't want to bank on Jared Goff being good 3 years in a row. I'm not doing it. It was already getting a little dicey at points this year. He's got to do it now.
no, agreed. All right. To me, those are the two absolutes. Those are the two that everybody's going to be after. Not everybody, but most people will be after. After that, I'm interested to see how much the percentages drop. So let me start off with another young name here who you and I really only assigned one place to, but it's Mike Macdonald here of the Ravens.
I'm going to go 80% for Mike Macdonald. I don't see the only reason I could see a team like, let's say the Titans, for example. We were talking about the Titans. I could see them deciding, we'll go with a second tier offensive minded guy instead of the top tier defensive minded guy. And especially in a year where Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and Mike Vrabel all come available. It's like, if you're going to get a defensive minded guy, do you want the young one? Do you want the guy that's done it and won one or a couple Super Bowls or a couple playoff games? But I'm still really high on Mike Macdonald, so I'm going to go 80%.
It's a great point. I'm going to drop his percentages to 60 for some of the reasons you just mentioned. So he's a young, unproven defensive guy in a crowded market full of veteran proven defensive guys. And then just for his sake, I just mentioned I think Ben Johnson should definitely hop in now because he didn't last off season. But Mike Macdonald wasn't necessarily a hot name last off season. If I were him, if I didn't see the job I wanted, because I don't think he'll have his pick. I think he may have one team that just directly goes after him, and then maybe another team that's showing some interest. He may have actually more interest next off season. So I might actually be interested in seeing, hey, could I land a better job next off season? Is that risky? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how quickly you can go from hot to cold. But if I don't get the job I want, if I don't get a spot I like, for instance, if it's only Carolina that comes calling, I think I'll just wait till next year if I'm Mike Macdonald. If I get a job I like, then I'll go ahead and jump on it. But I'll put it at 60% for Mike Macdonald. All right, let's do, and again, we're starting to get into, let's do the interesting name here, Antonio Pierce. Because I know where I feel about him with the Raiders, and I know some other teams are interested, but I don't know how many other teams are truly going to pursue Pierce. So what percentage chance for you for Pierce?
I'm gonna go like 70%, 75% chance. We got a report from Adam Schefter today that he has emerged as the true front runner to keep that job with the Raiders. He had that interview with the Tennessee Titans. It's the only other interview that he's been reported to have had or had scheduled. And that's already been done. And I think the Raiders kind of feel like, okay, we got through him doing that interview. Let's not risk it. I think he ends up staying with the Raiders more likely than not. So I'll go 75% chance on Antonio Pierce being a head coach next year.
I'm in the same boat. I would have said 70, but yeah, we're not going to quibble over that. I figure he's going to get the Raiders job, but they are looking around. So I think there's just as big a chance that they hire somebody else as there is that maybe he gets a job somewhere else. So, or close to it. So I've got him at about 70% as well. We'll see. Let's move to the two veteran names on the list. Okay. The two old guys. Let me start with Bill Belichick. What are the odds he's got a job?
100%. Bill Belichick's going to be a coach next year, man. I mean, as much as I wouldn't be the one to maybe do it, depending on my situation, you're going to look your fans in the face if you're a team that's changed coaches a few times in the last decade and say, we could have hired Bill Belichick and we didn't. Nah, he's in. And I don't know if he leaves the Patriots job without straight up retiring if he doesn't know he's got a couple, right? So 100% Bill Belichick's coach next year.
I was going to say 80 just because not every team is going to be looking at him, but you've talked me into it here. So I'm boosting it up to 90. Again, not every team is going to be interested. Probably half the teams won't be. So that leaves the other half. Probably half of that group already knows who they want to go after, and it's not Bill. But I still think there's probably all it takes is two teams, right? One team. I'm sure somebody's going to want him first, and maybe him only.
Hmm.
So I'm with you. He's got a job. Now let's Pete Carroll. What do you think the odds are on him?
Man, this morning I would have said 100%, but after you and I kind of did all the we did our AFC and NFC shows, and kind of talked through all the teams, I'm gonna go as low as 60%. Again, if this was me, Pete Carroll would be one of the first guys I called. It would be like Ben Johnson one, depending on my team situation, Mike McDonald two, and then probably Pete Carroll three, and I try to get some young superstars with him. But I think at the end of the day, team situations, teams wanting a guy they feel like could coach for 10 more years. And look, Pete Carroll, I think could probably coach for 10 more years, but go offensive minded. He's so attached to that Seattle organization. Just like Belichick, but I think Pete Carroll is more likely to kind of look up and say, he's not because of Bill, he's not going to get his first pick necessarily. Um, I, the more I look around, the more I'm like, man, like this might be it. He might just keep that executive role with the Seahawks or whatever it is. I'll say 60. I'm even kind of reneging on that. I'm gonna go 65% for Carroll. I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen, but so far he's the easiest world I could see not happening.
It's a fair point. I was going to go 80% on Carroll. You've kind of backed me off of that a little bit. To me, the whole him being advisor, consultant in the building thing is just weird. I
Yeah,
mean,
very.
that he's not going to enjoy that.
Nope.
He's a coach. He's going to enjoy coaching. That's his thing. So I think he's ready. Listen, he's already said he wanted to coach some more. So
Hmm.
why not? And somebody's going to want him. You're right, though. The Bill Belichick factor here is going to hinder how many options he would have. Because instead of being, hey, this is the winner, this is the old guy who knows how to win. Well, now he's the second old guy who knows how to win. So that's definitely going to hinder how many options he's got available to him as well. So I'm with you there. I've got him at 70%. I think
It,
he's coaching.
it's that video
So
online of I hope this is me and my best friend when we're 75 and it's two old guys about to have a relay race and and at the start one just trips the other and you're worried that he's gonna break a hip, right? And they just like are having a blast with. That's Belichick and Vrabel. It's like these two old guys are just really gunning for the first spot and then Belichick's just gonna stick his foot out and that's gonna be done so.
the great point. So far we've got 7 openings, 6 guys with a 60% chance or better to fill those openings. One more opening with possibly a wild card spot opening. So that leaves 1 to 2 spots. So I'm interested to see where we go on the rest of these guys. I think the next obvious one to me is Mike Vrabel.
Yep. Yep. And this is where it gets tough because out of these seven, right, we have the unknown eighth job. The Panthers are the last one. And do any good coaches want to go there? Like that's where it feels like you're gonna get stuck with. I keep saying these names like they're bad names. It's no offense, but like the Brian Callahan, the Bobby Slowick, the unproven OCs. I have other names that I like better for Carolina, but it's like, okay, we have seven really good names, but really only six really good jobs. So who's intentionally skipping out? Um, I have Vrabel at like I want to even go higher. I have Vrabel at like 90%. I don't know what he would do. I don't see him going to college. I don't see him being a DC anywhere. I don't see him going into TV for a year. Um, he might be classic enough that he would do the I take a year off and I go and watch coaching clinics and um I go watch who's a college coach at a program right now that people would actually go watch. I don't even know anymore because everybody's gone. But I would go watch a college team. I would go watch the state champion in Texas high school team do practice. I would go watch Gerard Mayo in New England for a couple. I could see him doing. I think he might be a classic enough coach to do that. But I think he's going to be too good of a coach for team to pass up on. So I'm going to go 80% for Vrabel for Vrabel.
This is the first place where we've got a big dichotomy here. I'm at 55% for
Uh,
Vrabel. And the reason is not because people wouldn't be interested, but because it's a crowded market. So I'm not
mhm.
sure if I'm Mike Vrabel, I feel fairly confident I can get a head coaching job next year if I don't get it this year. So if I don't get the job I want, which is not Carolina, then I'm just going to wait a year and see. And I'm not sure that I don't go work for TV. And I'm also not sure that if the right college doesn't come talking and throw me enough money, that I don't go coach at college for 5 years and then come back to the NFL, just like Jim Harbaugh. I think that's a total great path for Vrabel. Vrabel eventually is going to have a head coaching job that he likes, and he's going to be there a very long time. I just don't know if it's going to be this offseason or not because it is a crowded market. So again, is he the hot name? Not necessarily, because Harbaugh and Johnson are the hot names. He's not the old winner guy because, hey, Belichick and Carroll have that slot covered. So now he's getting leftovers, and I'm not sure he's interested in leftovers. So I'm not sure that he doesn't go take a year for TV and listen to what offers come out. But we'll see. I've got him at 55%. I still think he gets one, but it would almost have to be that a wild card spot opened up and created another slot here in order
Mm-hmm.
for him to get one he likes.
Cowboys? Cowboys? Um, it's let me continue my pop culture references. RIP to Matthew Perry, Chandler Bing and Friends. It's when Chandler wanted to get a new job, and so he did one of those job finder tests. He went back in the day when they had those like actual career counselors. You can go and take an aptitude test, and he found out that he was meant to be a computer processor or a data processor, which is the job he quit because he thought it wasn't what he was meant to do. Mike Vrabel's taking a test, and he's like, "What team's the perfect situation for me?" Oh, it's the Tennessee Titans. Bummer. Uh, so yeah, that's it. That's where like the true exercise of like musical chairs, like that would have been the right spot to draw him up in. It's just, that's the spot he's, leaving. So unfortunate.
You never know what people are thinking. People will want Brable, but will they want him first over these other guys this year? Over Harbaugh, Johnson, Carroll, Belichick, even a Mike McDonald or Dan Quinn, which we're fixing to talk about. Would they want Brable first? And I'm not certain of the answer to that. So stay tuned on Brable. Let's throw out the name Dan Quinn.
Um, the math here isn't quite mathing with everything we've said. I feel like based on that, I should be saying 50-50 is the highest, but I also think Dan Quinn is one of the best candidates to take that Panthers job. Um, as I mentioned when we did the NFC ones, but I think just based on the math and the number of guys we still have kind of on the docket, I'm gonna go 50-50 for Dan Quinn. It really feels like it's the year he's going back, but I guess you never know. So I'll go 50-50.
It's a great point. And again, crowded market. I mean, man, how
Yeah.
do you go with Quinn over a Brable, Carroll, Belichick, Harbaugh, Johnson? I've got him at 45%, which is just under the likelihood that he gets a job. He's really, Dan, I think Dan Quinn's really hoping that somebody gets fired, to be honest about it.
Maybe his boss. Yeah.
Maybe that. Even if
Which
he
is what
doesn't
we
go
said
there.
when he
Right.
kept because he did head coach interviews last year. And when he re-upped with the Cowboys, we said this exact scenario.
Yeah.
Um he's no longer in competition with Kellen Moore as the OC to take it. So he could be the guy in waiting.
I've got a list here of 8 more names I think I'm looking at. I'm not going to call them all out, but I'll let you call out who you think. Obviously, statistically, we now think that these 8 guys are out, that they're not getting a job. But I
Right.
will let you pick out a name or two that you think is sitting right there on the cusp, maybe with a Quinn or a Brable to also maybe hedge their way in. So Dave Canales, Tampa Bay, Raheem Morris, Jeff
Hmm.
Ulbrich, Patrick Graham, Brian Callahan, Brian Flores, Bobby Slowick, Mike Kapka. That's a short list. You may even have another name you want to tack onto it. But who do you think really percentage wise is knocking on that door to legitimately maybe get one this year, crowded market or not?
Yeah. Raheem Morris would be my number one guy. He's kind of right below Dan Quinn, another guy that I think would be a good fit in Carolina. I'll put him at like I guess 40% if I can sneak one more somewhat reasonable number in there. Raheem Morris would be the next guy for me. And then the two more understated guys, I'll put at like 15% would be Brian Callahan and Bobby Slowick. If Bobby Slowick here today with the Texans, they put up like 30 on this Browns defense. People are really going to be into him, and he's already gotten a number of interviews and interviews scheduled. So I'll give each of those guys 15% or so, but those are the only other three guys for me: Morris, Slowick, and Callahan.
Very good. My favorite guy still on the list, I think, and I haven't gone into all of these guys. It's still Brian Flores. He's not
Yeah.
going to get a job this offseason. There's too many There's too many other guys out there getting buzzwords. So Flores isn't going to get the job this year. But if Flores posts another good defensive improvement next year, year over year, then next
Yep.
offseason, I think Flores is a guy that people will be looking at. Not everybody, because he's not easy to get along with. But if he's good enough, and he is, I think he'll continue to show that he will get a look next year for sure. So, all right, anything else you want to add on, Matt?
I think that's it. It was a great time. It was a great little series. Appreciate you having me on. Let's go watch some Super Wildcard Weekend, Ben.
Let's do it. We're getting close. Tell everybody where they can hear you.
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter at Simon_Short. I have the Simon Short podcast. Follow Statsheet Pod, me, Ben, and Ronan Summers at Statsheet Pod. You can hear that every Tuesday, Simon Short Pod every Thursday, and then catch everything at B Score Network, Box Score Network, where all of those things and the show are a part of. So appreciate Ben and you all as always.
Enjoy the playoffs, everybody. Have a great one. We'll see you next time. Bye.